This new sermon series is called Preaching by Request, where you name the subjects or the questions and I address them or attempt to from a scriptural point of view. The text for today is Numbers chapter 22, verses 1 through 35. I encourage you to read it on your own, Numbers chapter 22, verses 1 through 35. I will not read it here for the sake of the length of video. So if I'm going by first come, first serve, I got this request several years ago. Someone said, I've never heard a sermon preached on Balaam and his donkey. So that's what we will address today from Numbers 22. The time is during the Exodus and moving towards the Promised Land. Balaam was known to be a prophet, but not one well thought of. The Moabite king had seen the Israelites as people lurking a little close to his lands. The Moabite king had also heard how Israel dealt with the Amorites, so he thought direct attack would not be good. He summons this prophet Balaam and asks him, say a curse on these people. Well, Balaam says, well, I don't have permission to do that from God. I can't do it. So the Moabite king says, well, I'll give you all these things. I'll sweeten the pot. And God says in a dream, if they come to you, go with them, but only say what I tell you to. Balaam gets up and saddles his donkey. God's anger is kindled. More on that in a minute. But as the donkey goes along, an angel of the Lord with a flaming sword is in the way. The donkey sees it, moves out of the way. Balaam doesn't see it, so he gets mad and actually beats his donkey to get him back on the path. The donkey moves out of the way again. Balaam gets mad, beats his donkey. The third time, the donkey just lays down. And Balaam hits him one more time. Then I love this scene. The donkey turns and says, why did you strike me? I've been with you all these years, borne your burdens, and you do me like this? Have I ever done anything like that to you? Well, the talking donkey got Balaam's attention. His eyes were open. He saw the angel of the Lord. He stopped short and said, Lord, what should I do? And God tells him. So 1 point of curiosity on this story and then 2 points of applications. The curiosity. In some translations, it seems like God told Balaam to go with the men. And he gets up and saddles his donkey, and then God gets angry. And it's kind of like, wait a minute, you told me to go with them. But I'm not sure that's the case. If you look in the literal Hebrew translation, it's not, since these men have come to get you, go with them. It's, if these men come get you, go with them in the morning. Balaam never waited for them to come get him before he saddled his donkey. He just assumed they would. So he thought he knew. He had predetermined what the outcome would be. And God was not happy at all. And realizing that leads us to the first point of application. It's when we are locked in to our own ideas in our own minds. Economist John Maynard Keynes said, when the facts change, I change my mind. What do you do, sir? That seems like a logical quote, except often that's not what humans do. Often they're very much like Balaam, locked in to one thing. And if the donkey, something's different facts, the donkey veers off the path, well, it's because it's not a smart donkey, being stubborn, won't listen to what I say. And that wasn't it at all. But when a human gets locked into something, there's this phenomenon of the human mind to filter everything else according to the conclusion that has already been drawn. The fancy psychological term for this is cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is when you come to a decision or a judgment. Then you are presented lots of information or things that could alter or change that decision or judgment, but your mind filters those things out and only pays attention to the information that supports the point of view that you have already decided on. Social media bears witness to this phenomenon. Chat rooms. If you get chat rooms with all of these different points of view, eventually those chat rooms will gravitate towards people who only have similar points of view. The world during a pandemic is definitely this case. People have already drawn conclusions about so many things, yet we are getting new information, new science, new facts, literally by the day. But if those new things don't match up with the conclusion already drawn, Well, somebody's twisting the information. It's made up. It's an agenda. It's not what was said, a couple of months ago, so people really don't know. This is a time, my friends, where it really is not that hard to see cognitive dissonance in the world, where people only pay attention to the information that supports their concluded point of view. This happens in social media, in pandemics. It also happens with God. If you dig down to the beliefs of the agnostic or the atheist, a lot of times what you find is they begin with their understanding or point of view about life or the way they want to live it, and then they see if the construct of God might fit with what they've concluded. So instead of starting with the view of God and working down, they start with their own ideas and look up and may not see things matching. My friends, to believe in God is to quickly acknowledge that you're not God. In the movie Rudy, where Rudy is trying to get into Notre Dame to play football, he goes to Holy Cross and he goes to his father confessor, and Rudy says, "What should I make of all of these things?" And his father confessor says, "Rudy, in my life I've learned two things for sure. Number one, there is a God, and number two, I'm not him. I'm not him." To say that we are not God means to say we don't know everything, that we might have limited understanding, limited data, and we are open to God showing us more, teaching us more, and changing our minds. Changing our minds about God, about church, about others, about situation and circumstance, pretty much about anything and everything. The hallmark of a mind that follows Jesus Christ is that mind can be changed. Jesus can show new perspectives, new info, new anything, and we get a bigger and better picture. And God can do anything, God can do this with anyone or anything, even a donkey. This is the point which Luther circled around to. Luther at first did not want to break with the Catholic Church. He wanted to teach and reform it, give more information so they would learn together and move forward with better theology. And he famously had some debates with the great Catholic scholar Johannes Eck. In their debates, Eck asked him a direct question: "Luther, are you the only one wise? Are you the only one who has figured out all these truths and we are just a bunch of idiots?" This line of reasoning actually had Luther quaking in his boots. Was he really that much smarter, that much more enlightened than everyone before him? And eventually his response to Eck, and forgive me for the colorful language, but this is Luther, he said to Eck, "Once God spoke through the mouth of an ass." Luther said, "I might not be the only one smart or wise, but right now God may well be speaking through me." And that's the second point of application, is yes, we might be Balaam, but we might also be the donkey. Now, I'm not sure if anyone wants to be a donkey, but what if you're the donkey that God is speaking through? The openness of God speaking through anyone, even us. We really do sell ourselves short a lot of times. We get low self-images, think we're not doing enough or accomplishing enough. But this idea of God speaking through you, how many of you really believe that? It may be something that you've prepared to say over time to someone, but often it happens right in the moment. I just had an encounter recently where someone I had talked to for years, and we get into a serious conversation, and I happened to stumble across something that stopped the person short. And I said it, and they said, "Whoa, I never thought of it like that. I needed to hear that. That might have been a message from above." Talked to this person for years. It's the first time I've ever heard him say anything like that. One time. Ravi Zacharias, the famous Christian apologist, tells the story of his father, who was a very tough man. In the Indian culture, studies in school were very important. Weren't important to Ravi, though. His father was very tough on him for this, even to the point where Ravi thought life was not worth living and tried to take his own life. Thank heavens, Ravi was spared. Scripture played a part in his conversion. And then later, Ravi's dad connected to Christ as well. Living in Toronto, years later, Ravi gets a call. He says, Dad. His dad says, I have to have heart surgery, son, and I'm not sure I'm going to make it. I want you to take me to the hospital. Well, even though Ravi's brother lived much closer, Ravi went. And before his dad went back to surgery, he said, Ravi, I want you to know how sorry I am for all the years of what I put you through. All the years. And I couldn't be more proud of the man you have become. And I wanted you to bring me because I have a funny feeling I'm not going to make it. And I wanted to say these things to you. Those were the last words that Ravi heard his dad say on earth. He did not make it. But to hear Ravi tell the story and the passion and the power when Ravi says of that conversation, the power, the connection of just a few minutes can change everything, can mean everything. Those who believe in God, every one of them has the power to be used by God, to speak words from God. Don't sell yourself short. You never know when it might happen. We carry messages by what we say, by how we live, by being here as people of God, by living differently than the world, and also by doing exactly what the donkey did in the meantime. Why was the donkey heard? Because he had borne the burdens of Balaam for all these years and earned the hearing at the right time. That's quite a lesson for all of us. Paul says in Galatians, bear one another's burdens. In this way, fulfill the law of Christ. What we do is establish relationship, bearing burdens of one another, connecting during those times, and trusting God will use that for the words in the right time. Bearing burdens is a willingness to maintain connections when people have tough times. Maintain connections when people are the tough times. We reach out and love and care. We do not write off and we do not dismiss. We give more opportunities just like the Lord gives opportunities to us. That, my friends, is one of the most important things that we do as the people of God. We help bear one another's burdens. And as we do, we are setting the stage for Christ to be heard through one another when it matters most. We can learn a lot from a donkey. So, the story of Balaam and his donkey. Sometimes we can be Balaam, thinking too much of our own opinions. Sometimes we might be the donkey, thinking we don't have anything to say, not knowing how God will carry a message through us at the right time, but we bear the burdens for others, for the church, for anyone, trusting what God does through that to bring us to the point where we see and we say. So, this story has much to say. When you are too sure of your thoughts, of your own thoughts, learn from Balaam. When you are not sure of your worth or your purpose, learn from the donkey. And in Numbers 22, we can all be so thankful of a story where all of us can learn from God.